Broke late today, early this evening, that there might be some tentative deal struck to avert a government shutdown. What can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you that a lot of things have changed, and we'll see what happens. I can't go into the exact deal. I just heard it very quickly coming over to see you. It was between the deal and you, and I had to choose you because I had no choice, right? And I'm very happy I did. But, yeah, they're talking, and we'll see what happens.
There's an opposing rally kind of going on at the same time as this rally tonight. Beto O'Rourke, young kind of up-and-comer, they say, in the Democrat Party. He and others say the wall is really about hate and racism. To that, you say what?
Well, to that, I say that, number one, very few people showed up to his rally. And this place is packed with thousands and thousands outside. And I guess he challenged us to an event, so maybe this means he's going to have to drop out of the race because this was not a good situation for him. I don't know why he did it. And it has nothing to do with anything other than safety for the Americans, safety for our people, safety for our country. And a wall is a very good thing, not a bad thing. It's a moral thing, to put it in the opposite terms. And we have tremendous support. We're building it right now. We don't even say build the wall anymore. We say finish the wall, because we've built a lot and we're renovating a tremendous amount of old stuff that was really in bad shape, but it had good structure. So we're saying finish the wall. No, walls are very important. If you don't have it, all of the technology, Laura, all of the drones that they have flying around so nicely up in the air, they don't mean a thing.
What about all these border sheriffs, the ones at the border mayors? They always say, oh, no, we don't need a wall. We're safe. They were challenging some of your statistics on El Paso, even though Juarez has had a terrible year last year for murders. Another one.
Well, first of all, Juarez is like the murders are tremendous, and here they have very few. They are not correct. They know they're not correct. And
they say the crime was low. Low
crime
before the wall.
Was very high, and then the wall got built. And, you know, really you should talk about the sheriffs that agree with me, which are like 98% of the sheriffs in the country, maybe all of them.
Detention beds, they threw that out. Oh, we're going to reduce the number of detention beds.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
Well, when you do that, and the Democrats came up with that, because that means that you don't detain people that are very dangerous. That means you have to put them out into our society because our laws are so bad. And if you look at what happened and what's been passed over the years in Congress, it's a shame. It's a disgrace. That means we can't just put them back into Mexico or where they came. We have to put them back into our society. In some cases, they're stone cold criminals. We can't do that.
Another good piece of economic news came out today. Personal confidence in the economy. I think it's at a 16-year high.
Yeah.
With that, why are so many millennials gravitating in some polls towards socialism over capitalism? And what can you do to reinvigorate their understanding of the free market?
Well, I think they're, number one, they're young. They're idealistic, if you call it idealistic. I think that capitalism is more of an ideal. But if you look at the poll numbers, you look at the kind of numbers that we have, it's been great. I hit my all-time high today, 52%, and that's with only bad stories because the press only gives me bad stories. You treat me fairly.
Were you surprised when some Democrats didn't stand up when you asked that question at the State of the Union about socialism? Or we're never going to be a socialist country? Not everybody stood up.
Because that's where they're coming from. When I see some of the responses, when I see some of the statements made by congressmen and women, I say, are we living in the United States of America? Look, we have a country that's doing the best it's ever done. We are just lapping the world. You compare, you know, it used to be like we were a second sister to China. Now China is looking up to us. We are doing so well, and other countries are not doing well. And that makes it tougher for us in a certain way because we do business with other countries. But we're setting records in so many ways, including record unemployment, meaning in a positive way, meaning.
But they always say, well, Obama started that, and then they'll say, well, there's income inequality. That's the new buzzword. You're going to hear that a lot in 2020. Income inequality. A lot of the young freshman congressmen and some of the candidates in 2020 are really gravitating toward that.
If I would have stayed with what President Obama did, you look at his last months, you look at what happened the first months coming into my term, they were very low. The numbers, the GDP numbers, and everything else. If I would have stayed with those numbers, Laura, we would have had an economy that would have been going way in reverse right now. We opened it up. We got rid of regulations that were unnecessary. We did the biggest tax cuts we've ever done in our country. We opened up the oil. We opened, you know, we're the largest oil exporter now. We're the largest oil and gas in the world right now. Nobody thought that was possible this quickly. No, we opened up our country. We're letting people work again. We have more people working today, almost 160 million people, We have more people working today than have ever worked in the United States. It's great.
And yet we didn't have some people stand for that at the State of the Union. You say record low unemployment.
Well,
but what does that tell you about, are they, I got lots of texts, they're trying to paralyze our economy with investigations, all these oversight. You're getting hammered, I know, with requests for documents and so forth, which is part of the oversight. But
well, what's happened
what's going on there?
Yeah, what's happened to me should never be allowed to happen to another president, with investigations on things that never took place, like Russia. You know, the Russia collusion, delusion, we call it. I call it a hoax. And in fact, it was very nice. Richard Burr the other day came out after almost 2 years of investigation. They found absolutely no collusion between Trump and the Russia, which I could have told a lot of people, and which I have been saying to a lot of people. This has never happened to it. The Democrats know it's a hoax. This is a political game. So now the Russia thing is dead. And now they say, well, we're going to look at every company that Donald Trump was ever, they don't have any information or anything. We're going to look at every company that Donald Trump was ever involved in. I did great. I made a lot of money. Now they want to go back and investigate every company. We want to go, and we have, I think, 79 different letters from different committees. Democrats.
How are you going to respond to these letters?
Well, for the most part, they're conflicted. I got one from Pocahontas today where it said that Donald Trump, we want to investigate some company that it's so disgraceful. I said, just write her back, say she's got a conflict of interest, okay? And she should focus more on her heritage and not being ashamed of what she is. She should really focus on herself. But we've gotten letters, Laura, from so many committees. I didn't know we had so many committees. I think it's up to 79 letters. This is based on no information of any wrongdoing, because I'm a very straight person.
African Americans.
Excuse me. So we went through this whole Russian hoax. Nobody's ever done what I did, where I was hit with this. Now, think of this. Hit with it, and we probably had the greatest first 2 years of any president in our history in terms of what we've accomplished with employment, with GDP, with everything. And companies are moving back into our country, which is one of the great stats.
African Americans in this country, what would you say to the young African American today in Virginia who's seeing the turmoil in that state and and wants to kind of understand what the race issue is like pummeling us on all sides?
It's a terrible situation. I think that the Republicans are going to do very well in Virginia. I think a lot of things are happening in Virginia. I didn't campaign in Virginia because I was told that a Republican
not much, a few stops,
very
not much,
little,
at the very
no,
end.
But virtually not. But yeah, I started looking at numbers. I said, why aren't I there? But I didn't. You know, they sort of assumed that that's a Democrat state, and as you know, I did very well there without having gone. I think Virginia is ready to flip over to something, and I'll tell you, African Americans are coming to the Republican Party like nobody can believe. A lot of things are happening, a lot of very positive things.
Should Northam resign?
Well, I watched his news conference. It was pretty sad. It was a sad look. Let them figure out what to do. But I felt sorry for his wife. And his wife saved him from doing, as you know, Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
He was going to try and imitate Michael Jackson with the moonwalk. Nobody can imitate Michael with the moonwalk. And this would not have been you add that little couple of seconds of footage onto what he did. But it was a pretty bad situation.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Those negotiations just started up right now. The head of the Senate Appropriations Committee says there's a 50-50 chance of a budget deal before the clock runs out Friday night. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel is on Capitol Hill with the latest.
And I believe
the top appropriators in Congress are trying to get border security talks back on track at a critical stage in negotiations. Talks appeared to be heading for a bipartisan compromise with about $2 billion in border security funding when Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says some Democrats pulled a stunt.
Some House Democrats are risking a second partial government shutdown by calling for this absurd last-minute poison pill.
Democrats are demanding a cap on immigration and customs enforcement detention beds.
detaining criminals that come into the U.S. and they want a cap on them. We don't want a cap on that.
Allies of the White House said President Trump should take the money, but not with that kind of restriction, and time is running out. The Democratic House has a 72-hour rule designed to give members time to read a bill before voting on it. So a deal tonight would mean the Senate would then have less than 24 hours to meet Friday's deadline. A Democrat involved in the talks isn't ready to hit the panic button just yet.
Every negotiation, almost every negotiation out there hits bumps in the roads. there are bumps in the road, but as long as we stay focused in a bipartisan way, bicameral way, to get this done, I'm hopeful we can get it done.
After the longest partial government shutdown ever, most lawmakers on both sides say that should be avoided at all costs.
I don't know outside of one or two knuckleheads from around here that enjoy that particular the shutdown atmosphere.
Don't do it. Come to a compromise, and let's get on with doing the things that are really important here.
If all else fails, there's some thought lawmakers could pass the non-immigration funding bills and then do another short-term extension on Homeland Security to buy more time. Brett?
Mike Emanuel live.